Okay, this video has no new information in it, so skip it if you don't care, but I do feel like there's so much covered in this section, it would be nice to have a little recap video. Or you could just check out the recap slide. So we covered a lot of ground. We started by talking about the basics of lists. We saw how to make a simple list. They are a fundamental data structure for any ordered information. So there's a key thing, the order. Remember, all lists are indexed starting at 0. Lists can be any type, even other lists, which we just saw, nested lists. So we can have strings in there, we can have numbers, we can have booleans, other lists, once we talk about dictionaries, anything. And they don't all have to be homogeneous. We can have a string and then a number and then a nested list. We can modify lists with a ton of list methods that we saw. We can add to them with things like append. We can remove from them with things like pop. We can sort them, reverse them. There's a whole bunch of things we saw. Slices are their own sort of beast, which are ways of dividing up. Well, they're a way of taking and copying sections of lists. You could copy the entire list. You could go from the middle to the end. You could go from the beginning to the middle, but then only do every other index. Slices are their whole thing. List comprehension was another big topic, and it's used everywhere in Python when iterating over lists, strings and ranges, and even more data types like dictionaries that we haven't discussed yet. And we can use them to create duplicates of lists. We can use list comprehension to create a duplicate that modifies a list by multiplying every number or adding conditional logic. There's a lot of things we can do. And then we talked about nested lists. They're essential for building more complex data structures, things like game boards, modeling real-world data, chart data, tabular data, matrices. And then finally, we talked about swapping. And swapping is just a nice, useful trick that you can use to just swap elements in a list. You use the comma to separate them, and then equals to assign new values. And it's something we'll use when we shuffle lists or sort them and write our own algorithms. Okay, that's a lot in this section. So I recommend that you practice. If you're feeling weak on list comprehension with nested lists and conditionals, that's okay. If the syntax isn't quite sitting right with you yet, don't panic. But make sure you're good with the basics of lists, using list methods, slices, the basics of list comprehension, accessing nested lists with loops, and the basics of swapping. And then move on and celebrate that we're done with lists. But also we're not, because we're going to use them in everything from here on out. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Congratulations. Hopefully you survived.